I was once a man who had it all, or at least that's what everyone kept telling me. Gregory Stone. They called me CEO of a booming company, millionaire, many times over trending in all the right circles. Yet I often found myself alone in my sprawling mansion, surrounded by trophies and high-end furniture that felt more like a museum of success than a home. As my birthday approached, I felt that familiar hollowness creeping in, the way it always does when you're celebrated for achievements, but questioned for your humanity. Everyone out there thought I was living the dream, but all I had was a day on the calendar marked Gregory's birthday, and a quiet ache that came from knowing I was seen as little more than a title. Then, on that ordinary day, something extraordinary happened. Amid the clanking dishes and staff chatter, I stumbled across a simple birthday card left by Maya the maid. It struck me almost painfully with the words, "I didn't know what to give a man who has everything. So here's a reminder. You're still human." Anger flared first. Who was she to think I needed reminding? But deep down, those words hit hard, echoing all the insecurities I'd buried beneath layers of arrogance and isolation. What followed was a confusing mix of confrontation and self-reflection, a raw realization that my wealth had built walls so high I had lost sight of what matters, of who I really was. In that moment, I didn't just have a note from a lowly maid. I had a wake-up call that would forever change my path. The air was electric that morning, charged with the kind of tension that makes your skin prickle. I stood in the kitchen, gripping the edge of the cold granite countertop, my heart thundering. Who did it? My voice echoed cold and harsh, slicing through the silence of my staff. The breakfast dishes looked abandoned like forgotten relics of an early morning battle. Maya, standing at the back, her head bowed slightly. Eyes downcast, didn't dare to speak. I felt a ripple of unease wash through the room. Are you all in on this? Is this some sort of joke? A birthday card from a nobody. A laugh escaped a few lips, but it was forced, uneasy. I locked eyes with a couple of team members. The disdain was palpable. I left it. Maya finally said, her voice barely a whisper, but it hung thick in the air like smoke. My anger flared. What do you know about me? What gives you the right to remind me I'm human? The words hit me like stones, sharp and unforgiving. I could feel their incredulous gazes pouring over me, the weight of their judgment adding to my indignation. This might be a game to you, but you're not playing with toys here. You're toying with someone's livelihood, she shot back, her spirits flickering to life. My heart raced, not just out of anger, but because I'd never seen that defiance before. It was raw, real. It challenged me, and I hated that. See yourself out, I commanded, waving my hand dismissively. Yet deep down, a fracture was beginning to form, a crack in my impenetrable facade. Later, alone in my office, surrounded by accolades that felt more like chains than triumphs, I replayed her words in my mind. I was a successful man, yet here I was, feeling trapped in my own skin. A puppet in a world I had built, but hadn't truly tailored to fit me. Maya, that maid. Somehow she'd ignited in me a smouldering resentment against my own choices, stirring a tempest of emotions I had long buried under layers of power and pride. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was missing something huge, something about connection, about caring. I grabbed my jacket and urged to confront those walls I had built around my heart, screaming louder than my skepticism. I had a feeling that somewhere amidst that chaos, she had unspooled a thread I desperately needed to tug. Maybe, just maybe, it was time to follow where it led. You know, it sounds romantic, right? A lovely little moment where everything shifts. But let me tell you, that's not how this really works. That's how movies work. What happened next? Let's just say my man Gregory went on a roller coaster of chaos that could put Six Flags to shame. So there he was, all high and mighty, getting ready to dig up dirt on Maya. He thought he was some sort of detective channeling his inner Sherlock, but surprises were lurking everywhere. After reviewing the footage, and I mean, who knew security cameras could produce such riveting content, he finally caught a glimpse of Maya's sweet little moment. But here's the kicker. Instead of feeling inspired, he felt like someone had thrown a bucket of ice water on his ego. It was like, great, this maid with her kind heart just highlighted that I'm basically a walking trophy case with the emotional depth of a puddle. Talk about a slap in the face with a wet fish. So what did he do next? He decided to confront the crew in the kitchen like some sort of culinary gladiator. Who left the card? He bellowed. You can imagine it. His staff traded glances as if they were watching a tense game of poker, skittish, afraid, half expecting someone to throw down a royal flush of secrets. Every turn left him feeling more isolated, like a king on a chessboard, surrounded by pawns who were terrified to move in case they got caught up in his drama. Each dismissal from the staff stung. Quiet little whispers of "why would he care?" echoed in his head, throwing shade on his already fragile psyche. And trust me, when you're already teetering on that brink, a little doubt goes a long way. But somehow, even amidst the cacophony of rejection, there was this nagging voice saying try again. Maybe it was some inner voice, some spark of determination that refused to let this man drown in his own petty rage. So there he was, just a guy wrestling with his humanity and his ego like a clumsy toddler learning to walk, stumbling and falling, but letting out a nervous laugh. Because isn't that just the ridiculous part of being alive? Everything was a mess, and the walls felt like they were closing in. But deep down, somewhere, a tiny voice whispered that maybe, just maybe, it was worth it to dig a little deeper. Because you know, getting to the good stuff often means having to dig through a lot of dirty, unpleasant layers. The weight of the world pressed on Gregory's chest. He stared at the card, its simple words echoing in the hollow of his mind. You're still human. The emotion he'd long buried surged beneath the surface. Anger flared, but beneath it, doubt. Who had he become? The security footage replayed in his mind. Maya hands trembling, an act of pure courage. Why did her kindness pierce his armor? Her voice soft yet direct. We need warmth, Gregory. Each word a flicker of light in his dark fortress. He stood up abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. The confrontation with the staff replayed painfully in his thoughts, simmering tensions coiling tighter with each accusation. But now, as he breathed deeply, that anger began to shift. What if he chose to listen instead? A quiet realization nestled in the chaos. Beneath the facade of success, something was missing. Connections, laughter, the sparkle of human kindness. Looking out of his office, He saw the empty streets below, felt the isolation that had become his life. What was the point of wealth? If it locked him away, he remembered Maya's smile. A spark ignited. It wasn't just a card. It was a lifeline, a reminder that even in his ivory tower, he was anchored by the same vulnerability that everyone shared. Repeating her words in his mind shifted. The air reinforced his resolve. Let's restore warmth. He could alter the narrative. Step by step, he could dismantle the fortress of solitude he'd built. There was a new beginning waiting. He took a breath, steadied himself. In this chaos, he found clarity, a chance to rise from despair into something unstoppable. The fire was burning. And Gregory, he was ready to fan the flames. As the dawn light streamed through the tall windows of the boardroom, Gregory stood before his team, a profound shift radiating from him like the warmth of early sunlight. No longer was he the imposing figure who ruled with an iron fist. Today he was a leader grounded in understanding. The air buzzed with an unfamiliar energy as he laid out a new vision for the company, one that valued humanity over mere profit. Let's redefine success together. He declared, his voice steady yet filled with unexpected sincerity. The looks of skepticism from his executives faded into nods of cautious hope. He had come to a realization: it was time to lift others, as he had been lifted to turn suspicion into trust. Then, in a moment that felt cinematic, a crucial phone call that Gregory had orchestrated. He dialed a high-stakes investor, his heart pounding, reminding himself of the journey that led him here. As the call connected, he said firmly, "Sign the contract on one condition. I won't compromise our commitment to our employees. This isn't just about the numbers anymore." Silence hung for a moment before a voice on the other end responded, surprised yet intrigued. Weeks later, as headlines blazed across the business world about his transformative leadership style, Gregory found himself in a simple coffee shop, catching a quiet glance from across the table. Maya sat there, her eyes reflecting a mixture of pride and disbelief at the man he had become. He allowed himself a small, quiet smirk that reflected years of unacknowledged sorrow, a signal not of victory over others, but rather triumph over his own limitations. As they sealed their partnership with a handshake, he understood that success doesn't erase scars. It merely colours them, making every struggle seem worth it. In that moment, surrounded by warmth, he felt the gravity of all he had lost, but more so the brilliance of what he now had: real connection, newfound love, and a community to nurture. As the sun sets on Gregory Stone's once isolating mansion, it now embodies warmth, life, and connection. The journey has transformed not just the spaces within these walls, but also the heart of a man who for too long mistook power for purpose. He stood atop a mountain of success, yet it took the simplicity of a birthday card from a maid to show him that true wealth lies not in accolades or profits, but in the human connections we cultivate. Gregory's past was marred by ambition, fueled by distrust. He wielded power like a sword, fearing vulnerability as a weakness. Yet within Maya's innocent gesture, a reminder of his humanity, lay a profound lesson that recognizing our shared fragility makes us stronger, not weaker. We often demonize revenge as justice, but perhaps the real irony is that accepting kindness over hostility is the true act of courage. So I ask you, is it better to seek retribution in a world where the powerful often crush the vulnerable, or should we rise above embracing humility and forgiveness? Can revenge ever really bring satisfaction? Or is it simply a mirage cloaked in righteousness? As we navigate our own lives, perhaps it's time to reevaluate what we truly value. Can we, like Gregory, allow the smallest acts of kindness to reshape our notions of strength? Let us discuss, share your thoughts or experiences in the comments below. After all, sometimes the softest gestures lead to the most profound transformations. The question is, are we ready to embrace them?